Google Pest Control Marketer. Grow your business like never before. Call 770-993-0004.
Hello, folks. This is Hal Coleman, the Pest Control Marketer, and welcome to another episode of the Pest Control Marketing Podcast and PestControlMarketing.live, the only live stream internet TV show totally dedicated to helping you, the PCOs and the WCOs, grow your business, get more new customers, and make more money. And I'm here with my sidekick, Mr. Internet, the Internet audio and video guy, live in person, Mike Stewart. How you doing, Mikey?
I'm good. And I want to remind everybody that if you're listening to this podcast, audio only, if you want to see something, sometimes we slip up and forget to say what you're looking at. We'll just say, hey, look at that. And you're going on the podcast. Well, I don't see anything. You can go to YouTube. And if you go to YouTube and you search Pest Control Marketing Live, I'll bet you anything, Pest Control Marketing Live, those 4 words in YouTube, you're going to see the archive of every one of these live shows. You can go back. In fact, I'm looking at it right now. It's just, there's episode after episode after episode that you can review. So just remember,
in the neighborhood of 200 episodes, isn't it?
Right, exactly. You know, a lot of people listen to us, Hal, just audio only. And that's, like I said, we try to, if we talk about something visual or we put something up on the screen, we try to say it in an auditory fashion. So those of you that don't see this, but we're doing live video to where you can see how, and we show, sometimes we demonstrate things that even though you listen to the podcast, it may not make as much sense. So I just wanted to kind of do that. You know, I've never done that little housekeeping tip in all our episodes. And I think I'm going to do it every time because I want to remind you that, hey, you on your phone, you'd be amazed at how much video content you can get to on YouTube right there on your phone, and listen to the audio in your car. Now, I don't recommend driving and watching videos. I want it stated for the facts. You know, when you're sitting on a park bench, when you're out on a picnic, or when you're outside, or you're in your front porch, or like me, you're floating around in the middle of the lake on your boat or whatever, or pull to the side of the road.
Just out of curiosity, Mike, when was the last time you sat on a park bench?
Not too long ago. I was in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and we were walking around Old San Juan, and there were park benches everywhere. And I sat down on it and looked for stuff on my phone. So there you go.
There you go. There you practice what you preach.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There you go. Well, here it is. It's today is April the 4th.
Yep.
And I got to go get some more firewood because it's freezing outside and the wind's blowing 90 miles an hour. And I got up to go to my Rotary meeting this morning, and I didn't wear a coat. I just wore this long sleeve cotton shirt, and I just about froze to death. It's the weirdest thing.
You know, I think we're having lots of weird, you know, when the cold air from the Arctic blows down on the south, the temperature drops 20, 30 degrees. So I think that we'll have warm weather here in about 2 weeks. Hopefully this will be the last of it. But yeah, the weather has been strange for some reason, and I'm not going to say what, because I don't know what's causing it. Hey, there was an ice age thousands of years ago, and nobody ever told me what caused that. Yeah,
Lynn and I just bought a condo. Yeah, it's on the 5th floor of Kennestone Hospital.
Oh yeah, well, how you liking it?
Yeah, it's great. I'm over there at least once every couple of weeks, it seems like.
What a getaway. I
got a great doctor. When I left over there a week and a half ago, he put something in my pocket. He said, this is 2 pain pills and an anti-nausea pill. And he said, when you get home, take these about 30 to 45 minutes before you look at your bill.
Oh, that's not funny, because I've been.
No, you got to make it funny. If you thought about it seriously, it'd be awful. Yeah, it's funny.
Well, you know, I don't think
fun. It's not fun. It's funny.
Yeah. Well, I think that you won't have anything seriously out of pocket. They did an amazing job to keep you from leaving me, dadgum, your hide.
You know, I got something I want to talk about here today, Mike, that I don't think we've really talked about this in much detail. And When I got into pest control business in 1974 as a state employee, structural pest control regulatory inspector for 10 years, and then I went to work for Arrow Exterminators, and I worked for them for 6 years, and then I started my own business in 1990, kept that business for 18 years. One of the things that made me want to start a pest control business was when I worked for the state, there was a guy there in 1974 that worked with me. His name was Gary, and he worked there for about 2 years and left and went to work for a pest control company. But we stayed in touch, and he worked for that pest control company a couple of years, and then he started his own business. And about 3 years later, 3 or 4 years later, he sold that business for $300,000. Now, keep in mind, that would have been in the late 70s or the very early 80s. It was probably, let's see, maybe around 82. And boy, a light bulb came on in my head. I mean, you mean you can sell a pest control business? He said, oh, man, yeah. So I saw a couple of other people do the same thing. They started businesses. They kept them for a few years and sold them. I got the picture real quick that a pest control business is a very sellable product if it's put together correctly. So I started mine in 1990, June of 1990, as a one man with a spray can. I didn't know a thing about business. I didn't know a thing about marketing, but I knew a lot about pest control. I didn't know a thing about managing people either. I found that out the hard way because I ended up with 10 employees. But I grew $1 million business and sold it. And that became, my wife has her teacher's retirement, when she retired, that was her contribution to our retirement. Mine was $1 million from my pest control business. So as I work with clients, day in and day out, and I have for the last 16 years full-time. I actually worked with, clients part-time when I had my pest control business, but full-time for the last 16 years. I see them, a lot of them, and a lot of people I talk to. I talk to more people than actually become my clients. Probably talk to twice as many people in consultations, and a lot of them don't become my clients for a lot of different reasons. But one of them is they're not willing to make a commitment, time-wise or money-wise. Or mindset-wise, in order to grow their business. They're stuck in a rut. They're what Napoleon Hill calls hypnotic rhythms. And I said, well, what do you want to do? What's your long-term goal? You got this business. You've had this business for 8 years. You're a two-man operation. You're doing $250,000 worth of business. You've been doing that amount of business for the last several years. How old are you? And they say, well, I'm 40 years old. Well, when do you think you want to retire? Just give me a pick a time. Well, maybe when I'm 65. Okay, so you're 40. You got 25 years left before you'd really like to retire. Is that right? Yep, that's right. So let me ask you this. When you retire, do you think $250,000 is going to be enough for your retirement? Well, no, it's not. Well, what about $1 million? What about $2 or $3 million or $4 million or $5 million? Would that be enough for your retirement? And they're usually, yeah, that probably would, And I said, well, if you keep doing things the way you're doing them, you're going to end up with a $250,000 business. Now, most pest control companies are for sale to a degree. But some companies are not worth very much at all, and if they're going to sell it to somebody, they get ready to retire, and they sell that business, they're not going to get very much money for it. And there are several reasons for that we'll talk about, but you need to think of the end in mind. Whoever you are right now listening to this, think about how old you are. Think about what your end result is. Are you going to pass it off to your children or one of your children? Do you want to pass them off a business that isn't worth anything much, or do you want to pass them off a big business that they can make a great living at and live a good retirement someday themselves? I'm talking about thinking way down the line from today, right now. There's some mistakes that people make that just kill them when it comes time to sell the business. And I'll go over a few of those. The biggest one that I see from working with hundreds of pest control companies over the last 16 years, one of the biggest things that prevents them from having a good sellable premium price business is recurring revenues. I've talked to a lot of pest control companies in the past that pride themselves in saying, oh, we don't do contracts. No, we don't ask people to sign a contract. We just do a one-time services. And if they want it again, they call us again. Well, what companies are looking for, big companies are looking by smaller companies or anybody, no matter if they're twice as big as you are or they're 1,000 times bigger than you are. The number one thing they look at is recurring revenue. Recurring revenue, quarterly pest control, annual termite, service contracts, things of this nature. So if you're selling, I have a friend who's in the acquisitions business, and he was telling me this several years ago. These numbers vary sometimes according to the economy, but he said, you get about $1 on the dollar for your recurring revenues. I mean, you get about 30 cents on the dollar for your one-time services. So in other words, if you got $100,000 in recurring, if your business is, you got let's use round numbers. If you got $100,000 pest control business, and $70,000 of that is from one-time services, you're not going to get $70,000 for that. You're going to get about whatever 33% would be. You get maybe $25,000 for that $70,000 worth of business. If you've got a company that's worth $100,000, that you do $100,000 worth of business, and you got $90,000 worth of recurring revenue, right there is the $90,000 you're going to get. So recurring revenue is where the value is. I teach my clients how to convert one-time jobs into recurring services. It's easy to do if you know how to do it, but when you go out there and you get $250 or $150, whatever you charge for killing a hornet's nest or a yellow jacket's nest, or a one-time roach job, whatever you do, you get the money that day and you put it in your pocket, but you're not building any value into your business. You're shooting yourself in the foot in the long run. You need to learn how to convert that into a recurring revenue account. And now that's like putting money in your savings account for the future. So the biggest mistake a lot of companies make is they don't build the overwhelming majority of their business is not recurring revenue. It's one-time services. And almost any kind of pest service can be converted into a recurring revenue service if you know how to do it, but that's what you need to do. And number two is some companies, especially, the smaller they are, the more prone they are to take money under the table, so to speak. If they're going to go get, they do a bid for a $900 termite treatment, and the owner says, well, how much would it be if I pay cash for it? Oh, if you pay cash for it, I'll do it for $800. Okay. And they get that money, and it's cash, so it's not reported, it's not traceable, and they got $800 in cash in their pocket, which they spend on, what my father-in-law used to call shits and giggles, and zero value goes into the company. And when you sell your business, you're gonna have to provide several things to the buyer. They're going to ask for probably 2 to 3 years of your last income tax statements, a current P&L, and so if your income tax statement doesn't include those jobs that you did for cash, of course it won't. That means your value of your business shows up less than the amount of business you did, and you're going to get less money for it. I used to have people, I bid a good sized job, and I didn't do baiting systems back then. I did liquid treatments with Termidor, and those were pretty expensive. It wasn't unusual to have $1,200 or $1,400, $1,600 termite treatment. I say, well, sir, this treatment I figured it up, and it comes out to $1,640. Oh, yeah? Do you take cash? I sure do. Well, how much would it be if I pay cash for it? It'll be $1,640, because I'm going to report that cash. It's not going in my pocket, because that $1,640 adds on the books to the value of my business. And that's how you build wealth in a retirement, is looking at things like that. So that recurring revenue. And another thing that mistake people make is they think short term instead of long term. And what I mean by that is they're looking at today. How much money I make today? How much is this worth today? This statistic may have changed too because of the economy over the last several years, but it's pretty much holds true that in the United States as a whole, across our country, from the largest companies down to the smallest companies, on the average, a pest control customer will stay with you on the average of 10 years, and they will spend on the average about $6,000 with you. Now, it may be a little more now in 2024, but let's just say they stay with you 10 years, they're going to spend $6,000 with you. So when you get a new customer and you sign them up and you go service their home, and now they're your quarterly customer or they're your termite customer, you just basically got $6,000 worth of secure revenues there. Now, some of them will dump you after the first year. Of course they will. You know that. But others will stay with you for as long as they live. They'll stay with you for 20, 30 years until they die or sell their home and move out of the state, And even then, we hope you'll be able to get the new homeowner. So, but on the average, a customer, let's say, is worth $6,000 to you. Now, I can't tell you how many times I've had pest control companies say, I got rid of that customer. It was kind of a pain, It's just $90 a quarter. And for $90, I can do a lot of things for $90 a quarter. I'm like, well, that wasn't a $90 customer. That was a $6,000 customer. They were just paying you $90 every 3 months. That's $30 a month is what they were at, or $90 every 3 months, what they were paying you. But that was a $6,000 customer you had there. It's up to you to keep them or lose them. But people just don't really look at the long term. They don't look down the road at how much is this customer worth for me. Now, if you've got a really good plan set up and implemented to generate customer referrals from your current customers, and you really work on it and you teach it to your employees, and you know that customers are going to be with you 10 years, and you focus and you're diligent about during that 10-year period, I know that I'm going to get at least 2 new customers from that customer. Now, some of them they'll send you, if they're incentivized properly and they understand how the program works, they'll send you a lot more than 2 customers. And some of them will never send you a customer. But let's just say that your average over that 10 years, each customer you get over that 10 years, you're going to average getting 2 new customers from that customer. Now that really makes that one customer you got not worth $6,000, not worth $12,000, but it makes them worth $18,000. That new customer is. That's how much revenue that customer you just got is going to end up generating for you over the next 10 years. So, I want you to think long term and look at the real value of a customer down the road. Now, Dan Kennedy, he's not one of anything. He is the most famous and most successful small business direct response marketing coach on the planet, and has been for many years. I think he's about semi-retired now. I'm not sure he's active anymore, but I think he'd written 27 books on sales and marketing, and I've read about 24 of them. And I've been a disciple of his for many, many years. But he said, the purpose of advertising is not to make money; it's to get a new customer. You will make your money from that customer after you get them down the road. You'll make a lot of money from that customer, selling them everything you have, some things over and over again. But the object is not to try to make a killing just to get them. So when you get a new customer, if you did an advertising campaign and you say, well, I spent $1,000 on that, and I only got 3 new customers, and that's at $95 a quarter. That's $270. I went in the hole. That was a bad deal right there. Man, I lost my ass on that. Well, look, if you look at each of those customers as being worth $6,000 to you, and if you get those 2 referrals from them over a 10-year period, they're really worth $18,000. So you spent $1,000 and you got 3 new customers. Total value there is $18,000 in the long run. So that $1,000 ad got you $18,000 worth of business. And here again, this is not cut and dry. Sometimes you'll get more than that from it. That new customer, sometimes it won't be as much. But you see where I'm going with this? You need, and I've had people, that I talk to quite often. I'll say, you ought to give, if I was in business today, I'd give away a free pest control service any day of the week to get a new account. So, hey, yeah, you want to go with me? Well, let me do this for you free. If you go with my annual program, I'll do this job for you today. It won't cost you $250. It'll be free. And I can show them the money and show them how that adds up. And they're quick usually to jump on board with the regular service. But I have so many people say, I'm not giving anyway free. I don't give my services away free. I don't devalue myself like that. My service is valuable, and if anybody gets my service, they're going to pay for it. I don't give my service away free. Well, when I hear that, I know this person's not going to grow their business. That one statement right there is enough to let me know that they are locked into a hypnotic rhythm, and they're thinking short term. They're thinking right now, today, cash in my pocket today. And that's all. So it doesn't usually do any good to discuss it with them, although sometimes I've been able to turn something around and they thank me later. They say, man, that free service you talked about has made me more money than I ever imagined, but most of them, if they're that adamant up front, they're pretty close-minded about it. So thinking long-term value of your customers and being willing to invest in getting a new customer, realizing you don't have to make a big profit on the first service, okay? You just need to get a customer on the books and then have a plan to make money from that customer year after year after year after year. And the third thing I wanted to talk about that where people make a big mistake is cash flow. The number one reason that small businesses, there's a lot of reasons, but the number one reason small businesses fold up, 82% of them fold up before the end of the third year. Some people say before the end of the second year. I think it may be closer now to the third year, but it's because, you know what? They don't have any money. They don't have any money because they don't have any new customers. They never learn marketing. They never learn psychological neuro selling. They just somehow they build it and they think people will come. They open the doors, take out an ad, get a phone. They wait for people to call. And when times are good and they're making a little money, they spend that money. And then they get in a bind when the economy begins to tank or a new truck, something happens to it, blows an engine and it's got to be replaced. They don't have any money. They're living paycheck to paycheck. Their business is running paycheck to paycheck. And so they go to the bank or lending institution to open up a line of credit. And guess what? If you don't have any money and you're broke, nobody's going to loan you any money. If you've got money and you show that you don't need money, they'll loan you money. That's funny how that works. When I first got married in 1974, I had, within the first couple of years there, I ended up having 200 hives of honeybees. I worked for the state during the day, but, on the weekends and in my spare time, I managed my bees. My dad and I did. And we sold honey to a lot of health food stores, a lot of individuals. We sold pollen, and we actually sold beehives too. But my friend Harold told me we were loading some bees up, and I just had gotten married. And Harold, I don't think he had a formal education beyond about the 7th or 8th grade, to tell you the truth. He's one of the smartest guys I've ever known. And he built a lot of wealth in his lifetime, owned a lot of rental properties. Man, he had a really good business head about him, a great work ethic, and a lot of common sense. But he said, you know what you ought to do? Lynn and I were renting a house at the time. We got married. We had a house rented, paid $150 a month rent. He said, a guy in your position, just got married, you don't have anything, you're renting a house. He said, you ought to go to the bank and borrow $20,000 and put it in savings and just start making payments on it. Don't spend a penny of it. Just put the $20,000 in savings and start making payments on it. And I'm like, why would I want to do that? He said, because someday down the road here in the next few years, you're going to want to buy a house. And he said, you're not going to have a down payment. You're not going to have any money for it. And so you're not going to be able to buy one. And he said, just be making payments on that $20,000 just like it was a vehicle payment or something. And he said, then when you find a house you want to buy, and keep in mind, back then we bought our first house in 1977. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath brick ranch house with a half basement had a nice real fireplace, not a prefab fireplace, had a fenced-in backyard and a double garage, a big patio in the back. And all, we bought that house. We paid $32,000 for it. Things were a lot cheaper back then. And I didn't take his advice. Okay. I didn't take his advice. And when it came time that we decided after 3 years, it was time to buy a house, and we didn't have a down payment for the house. And my dad just happened to have one of his best friends who was a financial guy, and they worked together. This guy worked for the federal government too, but my dad told me, he said, my friend loans money from time to time. He's got a lot of money, and he loans money to people from time to time. He said, would you like for me to ask him if you could take out a loan? I said, sure. So this fella loaned me the down payment for my house, and I paid him back over a 5-year period and made that money from, selling honey and bees and raising nursery stock, ivy and liriope and different things in my backyard, and playing music on the weekend. I was just working all the time, day and night, doing something, but I never missed a payment. In 5 years, I paid him off. It was but if I'd taken that advice out and just borrowed $20,000 and put it in the bank and started making payments on it, life would have been a lot easier. So I hear people say, I bought and small business people, 1 or 2 man operations, they say, I bought a brand new truck, service truck, $38,000. I paid cash for it. And I'm like, well, okay, that's, took every penny I had, but it's paid for. It's paid for. I'm like, well, normally that's a good thing, but listen, what happens tomorrow if your other truck goes down? Or what happens tomorrow if you have some other calamity in your business and you need $5 or $10 or $20,000? Where's it going to come from? Well, I don't know. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Well, you need to be putting a portion of every week, putting money into a savings account for your business, an in-house line of credit, so that when something happens, you've got the money to bail yourself out. Because when something happens and you go to the bank and you don't have any money, they're not going to give you any money, okay? So it's not always the best thing to pay all of your cash out for a piece of equipment just so you can say you're debt-free with that equipment. When you're making payments on it, you're paying some interest on it, but you're also getting a tax write-off too. Depreciation on it. It's just a cost of operating. So hang on to your cash, treat your cash as if it was money, hang on to it, put it away, have an in-house line of credit, and have that money available. Don't take it all out and spend it on a piece of equipment, because the day you buy the equipment, it starts going down in value, dropping in value rapidly. So you're not making an investment when you buy equipment, okay? That's an expenditure. So anyway, those 3 things, not focusing on recurring revenue, not having a cash flow, not protecting your cash flow. And what was the other one, Mike? I don't have any notes. I'm just talking here.
I have to review it, but it was all about.
The other one was not realizing the lifetime value of a customer and not being willing to invest enough into getting a new customer.
Yeah.
Not being willing to do something free to get a new customer. So those are the 3 things. And I know you've got some thoughts. Hopefully you've been listening to me and not sitting there writing a new song.
No.
Hit song.
No, I to recap what you said, and I guess we probably ought to wind this up here in a minute. When you talk about selling your business, and you're just an individual, you can't sell your services. That's not something anybody wants to buy. They want to buy a book of customers. And the more customers you have, the more money you're going to get for that book of customers. And a customer is not a one-time person who just orders something and never orders anything else. That's why we used to call it in the internet marketing, and I have it to this day, and I try to always look for things that create continuity income, subscriptions, memberships. You call it whatever you want to. It's providing something for a customer that auto bills them on a regular basis. And we've learned a majority of people won't cancel. They just, it's like people get there's people still getting cable TV, and cable TV is dying, but they just never canceled their cable TV. It's the same principle. So if you are asked the question, do you want to build your business? And your answer is no, I just want it to be me and my one helper, or just me all by myself. Well, you don't have a business. You have labor.
You have a job. You have
labor and you have a job. You have nothing to sell. And the problem is Father Time will catch up with us. I got a good friend who owns he had a very lucrative service business the whole time I've known him, but he has nothing. He really doesn't have anything to sell because every one of his jobs are one-offs. And when he's done, there's no need to come back. And he's got a book of potential customers, but he doesn't have a book of customers to sell. And that's what you can build very quickly in pest control, is a book of reoccurring income customers. And like Dan Kennedy said, and like you said, what are you doing to acquire a new customer? And do you know the value of a new customer? And if you think it's the $190 payment, you're sadly mistaken, especially if it's reoccurring income. It's what's the lifetime value of a customer? And what are you willing to invest to get that new lifetime customer? And that means, are you willing to not look at advertising as a cost, but look at good advertising as a way of generating a new revenue producing continuity income customer? People say, well, I'm not going to spend that money. I don't want the cost of that advertising. Well, what are you going to do? It baffles me that networking, redoing their vehicle graphics. I mean, we've got case study after case study of people who were reluctant to do things, but we know it's proven to help you get a new customer. And, well, I don't want to hire any employees. Well, I'm sorry. You're not going to be able to handle the amount of customers you need to sell your business for $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million. You're only going to be, you only got so many hours in a day. So if you want to grow your customers to be able to make a good payoff like Hal did, and, I think you actually mentioned one of your friends, several of your friends have even sold for many $1 million. We actually had a student, Savannah Pest Control Mike, because of his marketing, he got the attention of a buyer, and they bought him. He was brand new into business, and 3 years later, they bought him out at a price he couldn't refuse. Yeah. Whereas my friend who owns his service business has been doing it 35 years. He's 65 years old. He's still climbing up ladders. He's crawling through crawl spaces. He's driving all over America. He's never home, and he's tired. And it's like, you got to make a choice. What do you, maybe people would ask, why do we do consulting? You know why? Because it doesn't take much of our time. It keeps our skills up. And I get a special, what's the word I'm looking for, Hal? Excitement when I see somebody succeed and they say, what you've done for me has doubled my business. What you helped me understand, I'm getting more new customers. My biggest, I've heard it. I don't know. You've probably heard this. My biggest problem, hiring good people. And that's one of the things Hal knows, is how to find good people and keep good people. But my world is telling you there's a whole world of people looking for you on their cell phones. And what do they find when they look for you? That's what you got. That's the advertising I do. But there's billboards, there's radio, there's television, there's networking meetings, there's your vehicle graphics. Are all of those things in line to help you find and get a new customer? I'm going to close with this. Did you ever see Glenn Rose or what it was?
Yeah.
And he says, always be closing. Always be thinking about getting a new customer. When you're standing on the porch and finishing up a job, to spending money on the right kind of advertising, to wondering if it's a good idea to change your vehicle graphics, you should always be closing to build your business. Because if your answer is, I'm happy where I am, then you're going to own a job to the day you die, and you're not going to have anything when you get there. And having sellable businesses is what we think and believe builds value in the long term. So hopefully that summarized a lot of the things you said, Hal.
I hope so. And Mike, if anybody wants to know more, they can get in touch with us. They can get in touch with you by calling 770-826-3662, and you'll talk with them about their online presence and look at their websites and all the stuff they're doing on the internet, and you'll give them an evaluation of what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, and how they could make things better. And you won't charge them anything for that. It's a free consultation, and I do the same thing. You can call me at 770-993-0004. I'll spend an hour with you. I'll send you a questionnaire to fill out about your business and your marketing and your sales, and I'll look at it. I'll go over it and spend time on it. I'll make some notes, and then we'll spend an hour together. And I'll already have a lot of notes made. I'll have looked at all of your answers, and I'll have some great low-hanging fruit ideas for you to take away with you and go right out and start implementing them. And it won't cost you a dime. So give us a call. We're here to help you. And if you're interested in finding out more about our coaching programs, how we can help you grow your business and build wealth and build that great retirement that you're going to look for one of these days, we can do that too. So with that said, Mike, I always enjoyed it. I always enjoy it, and I enjoyed being with you this time. And folks, thank you for watching this episode of the Pest Control Marketing Podcast and pestcontrolmarketing.live. We'll see you next time.
Hal Coleman has been active in the pest control industry for over 40 years, including owning and operating his own successful pest control business for 18 years. He now devotes his time to helping other PCOs and other WCOs double, triple, and even quadruple their businesses faster than they ever imagined. Be sure to check out his website, pestcontrolmarketer.com. For more information about Hal's coaching program, you can reach him at 770-993-0004 or email him hal@halcoleman.com. Mike Stewart is known as the Internet Audio and Video Guy. Since the birth of the Internet, Mike has been showing small business owners how to get more new customers, increase their sales, and grow their businesses online using audio and video, now with iPhones and Android phones. For more information about Mike's coaching program and his online training courses, visit MikeStewartCoaching.com or email him mike@internetaudioguide.com.
Google Pest Control Marketer. Grow your business like never before. Call 770-993-0004.